jimbur zodan yumi jang, toner monam jimbur nga biata, tagar dargon zanto, shirmaldo, tumba doje janla ki shom zar, longshu jinzho yang, zarwa tamchida me jang, martabdan de shiso, susur nga la yang yano, shanchib sankwe le dang, kartab mambur tonya, wembar shoparan dopi, damlev garwa yang yin, kanda kimchi jinzho yang, uzong top jang popar na zoti gemba yang yin, martag jan jinzho zhuwa yang, martag sa girwa yang mayan. Jikten tamchi jinzho yang, tamchi le shirdogba yin, jikten tamchi jinzho yang, jikten tamchi jinzho yang. Zhuwa tamchi le shirdogba yin, nyang len debi zhuwa yang, korar jin jiang maktongwa de jakhwar dertar na shanchib san hui zhuwa ma yin bar zhuwa de sangji ji chur nam lan zhuwa songwa yino.
That's all for today, the oral transmission. Well, today's class, in fact, before today's class, I would like to address two things. First of all, this Thursday, not tomorrow, tomorrow's Wednesday, so we don't have any class tomorrow, but Thursday we will begin a new class on Sigalovada Sutra. So it's the same as Vimalakirti Sutra. I will be teaching it in Chinese, and it will be translated simultaneously into English as well as in Japanese. So it seems that the sutra will take about 8 or 9 classes for us to study together. According to the Buddhist view, this particular sutra talks about the relationship between parents and child, and the relationship between spouses, and the relationship between the one who is the manager and employees, and so on. The reason why I want to talk about this or teach this is because it seems that nowadays people are not so good at interpersonal relations. And yes, on words, theoretically, we're supposed to be Mahayana practitioners. We're supposed to have bodhicitta. We're supposed to have non-dualistic wisdom. And we're supposed to have compassion. But I think all of you know how you actually deal with those in life. Therefore, I think it's quite important to learn the Buddhist teaching on how to work with all of these relationships. And I think that's the beauty of Mahayana Buddhism, is that you can have a rather really well-rounded relationship with others in society. And that's why I think in order to propagate Dharma into everyone's life, or infuse Dharma into everyone's life, it's quite important to learn this particular sutra. In this world, we have so many languages, and this particular sutra is translated into many languages as well, including Mandarin and English and Japanese. So we will provide you the text beforehand, and I really hope that you could have some interest to listen to it. And as a Buddhist, I hope that you can. After studying this sutra, you can have a new insight on how to deal with interrelationships with others and how to work with others within a society. It's important to get along with others. We cannot get away from any relationships. And if you are not so good at dealing with people, then that could bring you lots of affliction and suffering. Therefore, in this world, from the Buddhist perspective, from the Buddhist method, you can adopt those and try to implement them into your personal life. So that's for lay practitioners. And for monastics, I think it's also very important to study this as well, to get along, how to get along with others. Of course, since this text does not exist in Tibetan language, therefore I don't really have oral transmission. But for those of you who really cherish the oral transmissions, you can attend it even just for the chantings, the before and after class chantings. The second thing I would like to say something about the before and after class chanting. I think majority of you are doing this really properly. It's only just a few of them who are attending the class in the shrine hall, and maybe they're tourists, or maybe they're just paying visit and just peeking in. And for those of them, and maybe they're not really studying properly, and they don't really participate in class in the proper way. But other than that, I think majority of people are doing really well. You're really paying lots of attention in class. But for those of you who listen to the class online, I would really urge you to also adapt the proper attitude to attend this class, to attach great importance into this class, including your attire, including where you place the computer to listen to the class. And you should attend the class right on time. It's the best that you can attend at the very beginning, right at the time we started chanting. And then I think it's also quite important, right before the class, you should offer incense, offer water, and prostrate before you do the class, before you listen to the class. I know there are some people who listen to the class with the headphone in their ear and with the earbud in their ear, and while talking to their friends on the other hand, and maybe cooking, maybe they're listening and browsing some other things and playing some pop songs at the background. Then at that time, you have two sounds coming into your ears. It's very difficult to pay close attention to both of the sounds. So if you pay great attention, attach great importance to this class, then you will receive lots of great merits. Just as in ancient times, before they copy the sutras, the right calligraphy of the sutras, they would wash, they would take a shower, they would change to clean clothing, they would burn incense, they would purify the environment, and then they would practice calligraphy. Don't even mention about the Buddhism classes. At least when you're, even if you are participating in some kind of worldly classes, English class or so on, you need some personal time to completely immerse into that class, to completely take in all the essence of the class. You would calculate, okay, I paid $1,700 for this English class, therefore I have to pay close attention so that I can get the most out of it. So similarly to Buddhism classes, you should also do the same. You should also try to pay close attention. You should try to get the most out of the classes. I know the majority of you do take this class very seriously, and you do attach great importance to this class and really take it very seriously. And I think because of such kind of attitude, the dependent origination is incredible. Also, I would very much encourage you to chant the before class chanting and do the end of class chanting as well. At the beginning, we would have about 25 to 30 minutes of chanting, and then at the end of the class, we would have about 10 to 15 minutes of chanting only. So in total, you only have 40 minutes, and if you could use the prayer wheels at the same time doing the chanting, this could generate lots of merit for you and bring you lots of benefits. So try your best to participate. I saw people holding their prayer wheels and doing their prayer and using their prayer wheels really seriously. I think that's very good. I would try my best to finish all the classes within about an hour, unless I'm being extremely expansive and I'm doing giving a lot of teachings. So at the end of it, usually the last 10 minutes, if I exceeded the time limit, I myself become really rushed as well. I feel really much hurried as well. So this is, it seems that that's the trend I've been taking. Most of the transcripts of my teachings at the beginning, it's a lot of teaching, a lot of talking, but then at the end of it, it's rather quite concise. Just as Gorimba, when he composed his Shastra, it's the same. At the beginning, he expanded a lot, but then at the end, it looks very concise. So my point is, it seems that it's kind of my habitual pattern, but I myself am trying very hard of respecting both of our time and not exceeding too much time. While you try your best to pay a lot of attention and attach great importance to this class, I understand that nowadays people have lots of work and you have different things that you need to do. So whenever you are not ready to do all of those rituals, then that's okay. You can still listen to the class. I think this kind of formality in life is quite important. On one hand, you could receive lots of merit, but on the other hand, this kind of formality could really help you to build this kind of container, this kind of environment, and could help you to pacify your mind, could help you to feel a sense of relaxation as well as a happiness. And then on the other hand, you could really receive blessings from the Sangha, from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and the chantings. So I really hope that you attach great importance to this class and to the format of this class. And now let's move on to the teaching of Vimalakirti Sutra. We're currently on the chapter 8. It's the path of Buddhahood. And the content in this chapter is extremely important. Therefore, I am taking my time of explaining this sutra. So I'm really adding into this sutra, I'm adding some stories and lots of the teachings into the sutra. I think that's probably a better way, rather than going through it really fast and finish teaching it right away. In a fast way, yes, we can finish it earlier, but we don't really have time to contemplate and to study this sutra anymore. So after my contemplation and after my study, I will explain to you what my opinion is to this sutra and what my point is of explaining this sutra. Also, I added some of the commentaries. I referred to lots of commentaries from past masters, just as Master Hui Yuan and Master Seng Zhao and so on. And on top of that, I think it's quite important after reviewing their commentaries, we should also contemplate and we should try to discuss with each other so that we can study and we can really dig into the profundity of the Dharma. In this dark age, we currently have such opportunity of studying such wonderful Supreme Mahayana Sutra. I think this is such an opportunity of lifetimes, and it's so rare to obtain. Therefore, we should really seize the opportunity and really study it. So we'll continue. In the previous class, we've already talked about how the bodhisattvas would manifest compared to the mundane beings, and now we'll continue to talk about the birth and death as well as the nirvana, the comparison between the two. First, the bodhisattvas would manifest into households that's of poverty. It seems that they don't have any money. They appear to be someone who's really have such destitute, but they have unlimited merits of hand of treasures. The merits and the wealth are so easily to be obtained by the bodhisattvas. Lots of the merits are unlimited. They're quite wealthy. So on one hand, on the surface, it may seem like this person seems really poor. He wears this ragged clothing. He doesn't look so well nurtured, doesn't have lots of nutrition. So they may appear to look certain ways, just as in Tibet, because at that time there's a lack of nutrition and food, and therefore it's quite important to look at people's face to see how they look, whether if they have rosy cheeks or not. In spring, because lots of people because in spring there's still in early spring the Tibetan herders don't really have plenty of food yet. Therefore, it is the best to put some of the yak butter and put it on your face as a lotion, so that your face may look very rosy and look very healthy. And then whenever people look at us, others may think that this family is quite wealthy, and look at their face. They all have rosy cheeks. But in fact, those are just the functions of the yak butter. I heard of this story of the couple who started Stanford. In fact, the son of this couple died in Harvard after 1 year of studying over there, and then the couple went to Harvard University and suggested that they can make a donation of building a new lecture hall in commemoration of their son. But the principal of Harvard didn't take them seriously because they were wearing very normal clothing and don't look so rich. So the couple, after being biased, and they then went back to their hometown and then built their own school, that is Stanford University. So there are people who may appear to look really rather very normal and very average, but you never know. That's one case, and the other case is that because of the society has different value, and some people who suddenly got rich, they couldn't handle those wealth. Therefore, they bought all of their adornments that's made of gold. They wear 10 golden rings and thick golden necklace, and with a big golden locket. And there was an old movie where a farmer who came to the city, at first he was really poor, and then later on he got rich and he wanted to appear rich. Therefore, he asked the dentist to break all of his teeth and switch them into golden teeth. I didn't change golden teeth before, but when I was young, we had a copper tooth. When I was in middle school, at that time it was really popular in Tibet. It only cost about $1.50 yuan or 1.50 yuan or 2 or 3 yuan or something. So I changed one of my teeth into a copper-colored teeth right over here. After I got ordained, I couldn't really change it. And when I went to India, I still had that yellow-colored teeth. At that time, many people didn't understand why. But after the trip, we came back from India. Some people told Phuntsog Rinpoche that my golden teeth doesn't look good. It looks rather shameful. And Phuntsog Rinpoche asked me, "Is it a golden teeth that you have? Because I can't really figure out." And then I told him what it is, but because I didn't feel comfortable that Phuntsog Rinpoche was scrutinizing me, therefore I went to the dentist and switched it back to my normal teeth, because the copper one is just a layer that's placed on top. Anyhow, so at that time, that was the societal value to do so. But over here, it talks about a bodhisattvas pretending or manifesting in such a poor manifestation or poor way of living. Therefore, for those kind of bodhisattvas, it's not that they don't have wealth, it's only because their manifestation. So let's not look down on anyone because of their appearance. And then manifested becoming disabled through criminal punishment, yet adorns him with all 32 characteristics and 80 subsidiary marks. So disabled or handicapped, such as mute or such as different ways or different forms of disability, or blind or hands or feet, maybe they don't have a well-endowed human body as we are well familiar with, but they have lots of merits. They only manifest in such a way. In the Sutra, there was a story about a bodhisattva who at the time of entering into the womb of the mother, and then at the time of entering mother's womb, he became this ball of flesh, and then later but then the parents didn't like the form of the child, therefore they abandoned the child Then the second time the mother got pregnant, the bodhisattva entered into the womb as a person with 3 heads and 4 or 6 arms or so, and it looked quite terrifying to the parents. But the bodhisattva kept on coming back in such a way to benefit the parents and lead them to the path of liberation. And then manifest becoming low-born, yet actually born within the Buddha's lineage and replete in its various merits. Maybe from sometimes it looks like someone's born in a low class, but you really don't see what this bodhisattva is coming from. If we were just using our dualistic thoughts and trying to distinguish whether if this person is a mundane being or a bodhisattva, we can't do that. We can only see its surface, but we don't know what is the true nature of the bodhisattva. So, manifesting as a low-born, just as the poor people in our society, such as prostitutes or butcher and so on. But in fact, they are born within the Buddha's lineage, with the family of the Buddha. In India, they have a very strong sense of caste and family. So the bodhisattvas may appear in the way that they were born in a very low caste family or in a rather really low-born family, low-class family. In all of the teachers of Shuddhata, we would see that lots of his teachers were not really born from a high-class family. Nowadays, in our society, we don't really have such a very specific distinguishing classes. But in India, people from high class and low class, they won't even eat together. But in this era, within the Asian countries and within some other countries, people may have some kind of discriminating attitude towards them, such as the servants and so on. But I think it is really not a good attitude, because as you may know, many people, many great masters in this world, they appear in the way that they may seem to be coming from a low-born family. In Jigme Rinpoche's book, in Jigme Rinpoche's book, never the treasure of precious qualities, it says that never look askance at what the teacher does. For most of the great siddhas of noble land of India were menial butchers or evildoers, and even by the worst of standards, desolate, like Sarahapa, Shabhara, and all of those great Mahasiddhas. They appear of being reborn as prostitutes or butchers. They may look like the ones who are evildoers. But does their profession and their birth identify who they are? It doesn't. The 84 great Mahasiddhas, many of them are not really born from a high-class family. So let's not have a bias towards others based on their family, based on their social status, based on their facial appearance, and so on. What we should do, though, is that we should have great
这个现象呢，就是我们不能就是一次二，就是对他们。
We should have a sense of equanimity towards all of the manifestations, and do not look down at them. Master Nanhuai Jing, who's a great master, he told the story of a living arhat during his time, where he took refuge from, whom he took refuge from. This person, he looks rather odd. He has really big eyes, so big that has to be covered up by glasses, and then he has this big smile, a big mouth that goes all the way to the back of the chin, and he has very tiny ears, just like a chess, and then his eyebrows just like two black dots. So he doesn't look so good. And then he doesn't even take shower. But not only he doesn't smell bad, he has this really fragrant smell. He has lots of lice in his clothing, and he wouldn't get rid of them. A student of his reached out to Laos and tried to get rid of it for him, but then the monk got it back and asked the student not to kill the louse and put it back to his robe again. He went on a pilgrimage from Sichuan province to Mount Wutai, where he prostrated all the way to Mount Wutai. Every 3 steps he would prostrate, and then that's the way he went to Mount Wutai. At Mount Wutai, on top of the Mount Wutai, there is a temple, and the abbot over there had a dream in the previous night before he arrived at his temple. The abbot dreamt of Manjushri, told him that there is a living arhat who will be coming tomorrow morning. Therefore, you should all dress up and go receive him tomorrow morning. So the second morning, the abbot leads all of his disciples from that temple and greeted him. Of course, that monk didn't really agree that he's or acknowledge to everyone or promote himself as arhat over there. That's how he got the name of living arhat, because of the dream where Manjushri told the abbot that there is a living arhat coming. He also worked in a small monastery, or stayed in a small monastery for 3 years, and for 3 years he was the person in charge of volunteer to clean the washroom. At that time, there's no toilet paper, therefore people would use the skin of the bamboo to clean after feces, after the monks went to washroom. Therefore, he was the one who cleaned all of those bamboo skin, and after washing off the feces off them, and then he would sun dry those again, and then use those bamboo to touch his face and make sure that it won't hurt the bottom of the other monks. So that was his job. I think some of I think people over here, some of you who don't really know me or who don't really know this kind of teaching, you may feel, why would he teach like that? Why would he say stories like that? But I think it's because the different culture, different moralities and ethics are very different based on the different locations in the world. Therefore, if it's someone who has very strong opinion of their own culture and try to use the same standard to measure others, then they may feel that the other people are not being respectful towards them, and vice versa. Therefore, I think Mahayana Buddhism is very inclusive. If you have such deep wisdom and really dive into the ocean of Dharma, then you'll be able to really open your heart and have a much bigger perspective. And when we look at our current world, our society, and all of the different aspects of the society, you would see that many things have lots of conflicts. Even the Western and Eastern culture are very different. In the West, what is not ethical is such as lying and plagiarism and so on. Those are the acts are not accepted by the Western society. Such as if master or postgraduate student who plagiarized it during his studies, then that's the end of his study and end of his career. But in the East, it seems that plagiarism in the East is rather normal. It's rather somehow acceptable because everyone's almost doing it. Everyone in the academia is doing it. Therefore, it really is based on the understanding and inclusiveness, open-heartedness towards different culture and different kind of mentality. Around the Wisar or Lhasa, the tradition is different than the area over here. And then inside China, the southern part and northern part are very different too in terms of culture and different ethics. So if you were to hear people talking about their standards that's different than yours, that's very normal. People who came from different backgrounds, when they were sitting together, if one kept on feeling that the other one is completely unacceptable, is so lack of sense of ethics and cannot be accepted at all. It's in fact just their culture, part of the background that they grew up. But in religion, they're different. In terms of culture and society, people tend to feel very differently. When I went to the West, I noticed that what's the most important for them is that you cannot lie to the other person. Once you lie to the others, then you lost all your credibility. Of course, that's only in the level of common citizens, but when it goes up to the politics, then that's a different story. When you talk about politics, a president of a country could the president may not have spoken all the truth, but after a while of doing that, the citizens also slowly accepted it, isn't it? In the East, though, it seems that not everything is so black and white and right and wrong. There's a big gray area. In some areas, they also have the kind of condition where it seems that everyone is doing what the cultural norms or what the regulation is. In some countries, some regions, you cannot cheat. You cannot have any plagiarism at all. It's completely unacceptable. But for some countries and some other regions, if you don't cheat and don't plagiarize from the others, then all the way from top to down, it's not going to work out because the whole society is doing it. So don't give yourself unnecessary afflictions because you use your own standard to judge others. Ethics and morality is not 100% correct because your morality may be different than the other person's. Your karma may be different than the other person's. You cannot just grasp onto that how you feel would be exactly the same that applies to the other person. You cannot use what is correct according to your standard, and if the other person don't follow your method, then that person is a bad person. If the other person don't follow my method, that person is terrible. Within a family, within any kind of really good relationship, if each and everyone feels that they're right, then it could end up really badly. Therefore, I think it's quite important to apply the rule of karma to everyone. Everyone's karma is different, everyone's perception is different. Therefore, you cannot use your perception to judge others' perception. So some people may appear to be low-born, maybe appear to be destitute, but they could be just a manifestation of bodhisattvas. And sometimes maybe we don't even have to go that deep to talk about the bodhisattvas and how their manifestations are, but we can even talk about how everyone's perceptions are different. Last year when I went to a country in South Africa, the population was about 2 million. I was giving a teaching at a university, and I was asking about the teachers and how their academic research are, and then all the teachers, instead of talking about their academia, they continuously complain about the bureaucracy and the bureaucracy and all the corruptions happening in their country. A person after the speech that I made, he asked, "What do I do? What could I do if I witness some of the corruptions happening in my country?" So my answer to him is that think about if you are stronger than the other. Think if you are an egg or a rock, because if you're an egg, don't break yourself by clinching yourself to the rock. Otherwise, if you have enough power, then you can do the other way around. Anyway, he was nodding along very much, and I'm not sure if that's recorded in the video. That was really interesting. Also, let's not complain to the others because you're really just using your perception to judge others. There's no perfect manifestation, no perfect situation for you to be in. Even if you feel that your current situation is perfect, within that perfection, there are still some imperfections. If you really diagnose, if you really analyze your situation. Anyway, my point is that this lowborn, maybe you feel that they are lowborn, but they could be just like the Mahasiddhas of India. They are not really lowborns. So the bodhisattvas also manifest becoming feeble and ugly, yet attains the body of Narayana, which all sentient beings enjoy seeing. Maybe they appear in a way that they look really weak, feeble, lacks of energy, really thin, how poor, and even really ugly. But maybe it is only appear in such way. The truth is completely different. They may have already attained the body of Narayana, just like the Vajra body, the unbreakable body, the very strong body, like a very strong giant. Okay, if you don't know that story. Which all sentient beings enjoy seeing. This person who appears feeble and ugly, they may appear to be really pitiful, and you feel sorry for them. But in fact, people, sentient beings, may really enjoy seeing, just as Master Nan Huaijing's teacher, the Arhat, who may not look so beautiful, who may not wear very clean clothing, but people all really enjoy seeing him and be around him. I see some of the Dharma teachers, they may only wear the ragged robes and not really very proper in their attire, yet they have lots of students, maybe because they're good karma. Who knows? The Bodhisattva also manifests becoming old and sick. They get old. They're very old, wrinkly, and get sick very often. But in fact, they already eradicated the roots of illness and transcends all the fear, transcends the fear of death. In the Tathagarbha Sutra, where it says that they may appear in such a way, but they actually already eradicated all the roots of birth and death. Similarly, in the compendium of Buddhist doctrine by Shantideva, it says that he may manifest old age, illness, and death to accomplish the liberation of the host of beings, comprehending that all things are like phantom, a phantom and a mirage, and then his penetration is without hindrance. They already know the nature of all phenomena are empty. Therefore, they manifest in such a way that they get sick. Just as Pontsog Rinpoche at his later years, he appears and manifests of being sick. I believe that whenever he manifests in such a way that he was being sick, he actually liberates, he actually made auspicious connections to the sentient beings in the hospital, the doctors, the nurses, and helped them and led them onto the path of liberation. So don't be sad when you're old, when you're getting old. Many people are so afraid of getting old because, you shouldn't be. You shouldn't worry about it because you can't stop the aging process. Even after many different pills of slowing the aging process, you will still get old. Similarly, there are people who get sick, who are suffering because of illness, especially because they're suffering from illness due to their past karma. But the bodhisattvas manifest in a way that they get sick. And bodhisattvas manifest having the material requisites, yet always views the world as impermanent and is truly without desire.
就是灌的这个无常的，就是如这个秋云一样灌的无常。
He views impermanence just as he views the world just as the autumn clouds.
世间人一样，特别多的财富，但实际上不像我
Maybe they have lots of
对
wealth.
他来讲是，也许这些财富是
For mundane
连一个蛤
beings,
蟆那样的这种
such wealth
没有，
is
就像以前那个家
something
就是
that
我对
is to grasp onto, but the bodhisattvas have not even a hair thin of grasping towards those wealth. Just as Jiangyang Khyentse Wangpo, he had golden bowl, yet his student has only a wooden bowl, but Jiangyang Khyentse Wangpo doesn't even have a single hair width of desire towards his wealth at all. Most people would consider that people who don't have lots of material wealth, doesn't have lots of belongings, that practitioner will be considered as a practitioner, as a good practitioner, because he doesn't have lots of wealth, doesn't have lots of belongings. But maybe a really good practitioner, even if he has abundant amount of belongings and material, the practitioner is still a good practitioner. Still is a good practitioner because he doesn't have any attachment towards those wealth. And he uses such wealth and belongings to benefit sentient means. And the poor practitioners who doesn't have much things, maybe they're just suffering because of the lack of belongings and couldn't really benefit others at all. So you can't really judge a person by its face whether if the practitioner has belongings or wealth or not.
也很难这个确定，就是僧肇大师呢，就是他说这个道理的话呢，就是有这个木破经就是有一个
He cited from a sutra.
木破经就是木是那个就是那个羡慕，就是那个就是不是羡慕的仰慕，就那个木就是那个
This sutra is called the Sutra of Mupo, where in that sutra it stated it tells the story of a prince who were born into a family of royalties, and then the prince has the numinous power of knowing his previous lives, and he doesn't speak until he was 13. At the age of 13, since he still was not speaking, the king was really saddened. The king was thinking that he has such wealth, he has such a big country, and now the prince doesn't speak, couldn't speak. What could the king do to his heir? And then at that time, the king's cabinet suggested to the king, saying that your prince is already 13 years old, and he still doesn't talk. He must be thrown into a dungeon and find another prince to reign this country for you. And then the king listened to this cabinet's advice, digged out of while they were digging for to make a dungeon for this prince. The prince was really saddened, and then he told everyone, saying that I'm very saddened because the reason behind my muteness is because in my previous life I made lots of mistakes, a big mistake because of my lack of virtue, or my big mistake of speech. And then I suffered for a very, very long period of time, for many lifetimes. The prince was suffering inside hell realm for many, many lifetimes. Therefore, because the prince remembered he made such a downfall of speech, he decided not to speak anything to avoid making such mistake again. So Master Sun Zhao then said that although they have such abundant wealth, the prince since he knows his previous life, he doesn't have any attachment towards the wealth, and he sees all of this wealth as impermanent. People are so used to make fast or quick judgments based on the appearance of things, just as lawmakers. The West and East, the system of law are different. Even in the West, the law in the UK are different than the law that's implemented in the United States. Therefore, you can't just simply make a quick decision by saying this is good and that is bad, because in every place they have very different standards. But in Buddhism, everything is false, is not real, is not truly existence, it's empty. So by grasping onto your own idea and opinion as the correct one, that is just really a way of just deceiving yourself. Therefore, do not listen to your own dualistic thoughts. Do not believe and do not trust in your own dualistic thoughts. Because you can't trust your thoughts, because even if you make an aspiration of I am going to be peaceful and never be angry again, and then after 2 days maybe you got angry again. So your own thoughts are not trustworthy, and by using your own thoughts to judge others, how could that be trustworthy?
然后呢，就讲到这个施佑啊，就是那么就是菩萨呢，就是实现有这个妻妾啊，就是还有这个参与
The bodhisattvas manifest having wife, concubines, and mistresses, many women. I think in terms of mundane beings, if you were to have a woman, then that's okay. But for monks, if you were to have lots of women or many women, then that is not acceptable. Of course, by law, in some places it's one lawfully wedded spouse is fine, but sometimes more than that is not accepted. And then the bodhisattvas who would manifest in such a way of enjoying the desire yet transcends the muddy filth of the five desires. According to Theravada tradition, to the monastics, to the regulations of a country, then they have a very certain way of looking at how the man and woman's relationship should be.
他这个我以前对过这个藏文呢，就是翻译的，就是还是这个很好的，就是方便的思维也在讲那个主要讲六字真言的这个功德嘛。六字真言的功德，当时呢，
as I said as I cited from a sutra where it talks about the merits of 6 syllabus mantra, where 去谢见，然后他去见到的时候呢，就是有很多女人啊，她出家的这个袈裟， where Akshagarba was sent to a person to study the merits of the 6 syllabus mantra. Then before he went there, his teacher told him that you should go to this person. He may appear to have many women, and at the same time dressed in ragged and filthy clothing, but don't have any wrong perception or wrong view of him, but only request the Dharma. So he went there and received the profound teaching of the 6 syllabus mantra. So sometimes people may appear in different ways. But of course, when you are a genuine sage who has already uprooted all the 5 desires, and then you can appear in such a way. Once you uproot all of those desires, then you can use such methods to benefit sentient beings. You have to have the cause, the characteristics, and the fruition of such unusual actions. But nowadays it seems that people use the excuse of Vajrayana, of certain practices, and lie to the others and deceit the others. This is not good. This is really not good. And then some bodhisattvas manifest dumbness or muteness, yet accomplishes eloquence and unfailing dharanis. Dharani is like the great eloquence or the ability of debate. Maybe at the beginning, they may appear to be someone who's really not good in eloquence, but in fact, they already accumulated all the merits of being eloquent. Just as stated in the Udana Varga, it says that the fool who considers himself foolish is a wise one in that matter. The fool who is proud of his wisdom is said to be a fool indeed. So if a person who knows his lack of wisdom, then that person is a wise one. But the fool usually would talk about how wise they are. But in that way, they are indeed a fool. So I really hope that people could have the genuine wisdom. If you have the genuine wisdom, yes, you can share a little bit. But for those of you who don't really have any wisdom and continue to talk about it, then the karmic fruition of such is quite horrifying for your future lives. And he manifests becoming becoming a false forward of a heretic path. Just as Puruna couldn't liberate those heretics, but Manjushri appeared in a way as a force lord to liberate all the heretics. In fact, when we talk about heretic path, it's not really a disrespectful way. Just as our own religion and other religions, our own people and people from abroad. So it's the same. So it's not that when we say heretic path, we're using a very negative and very in a tone that's looking down upon them. It's not true. In fact, in heretic path, there are people also trying to help sentient beings, and there are bodhisattvas manifest into their religion, into their path, and try to benefit sentient beings as well. So I think it's important to also study different religions, to study to be inclusive of others. I know that there are beginners who don't really want to study or don't really want to get involved with other religions or other paths at all, same as Theravada tradition. But for But for the Mahayana practitioners as well as the bodhisattvas, they would study all different types of teachings and knowledge around the world, such as science, such as medicine, such as all different kinds of knowledge around the world. As long as you could still maintain the right view, then it's fine for you to explore different knowledge. Some bodhisattvas and great masters, they would go into different places that's probably not really proper for them to go, for people who can't understand for them to go. Just as a monk is probably best to live in a monastery, but if a monk goes to different groups and different places, they have a very different aspiration. Therefore, on one hand, we should be conservative to ourselves. We should maintain lots of the very original teachings from the Buddha. And on the other hand, if we can really help others, if people could really help others, then everything is possible. Everything is workable. So you can really do anything to help all sentient beings. In the Sutra of Purifying Negative Karma, it says that bodhisattvas see all afflictions as a bodhidharma, as the nature of all afflictions are empty like space. So the nature of afflictions is empty, just as space, and the afflictions only appears. Also, it just manifests and appears, but its nature is empty, just like space. So, on the surface, they may appear to be the three poisons, but these three poisons could be just the manifestation of the helping condition to benefit and liberate sentient beings. So the previous part talks about the birth and death, and then this coming part talks about the nirvana, the action of nirvana. It talks about he manifests entering all destinies, yet eradicates their causes and conditions and manifests in nirvana, yet does not eradicate the samsara. Just as many bodhisattvas, many great teachers, they manifest themselves of entering into nirvana. As I often say, when Pontsuk Rinpoche passed into parinirvana at age 72, that was his manifestation. But he would continue to take the rebirth in samsara, and during such manifestation of taking up different forms and take different lives in samsara, they really enjoy samsara as a swan stay in the garden. The bodhisattvas may appear in forms such as birds and such as different forms in different realms, and help all sentient beings. This is really important, especially when it talks about the Buddhahood, the path of Buddhahood. So the previous part, it talks about and as concluding part of the previous concluding sentence of the previous part, Vimalakirti said, Manjushri, if a bodhisattva can traverse the unacceptable path in this way, this is to penetrate the path of Buddhahood. So for those of you who can really, therefore I think for our Sangha over here, try to understand such teachings, especially the teachings on what is acceptable path and unacceptable path. Of course, I understand this could be very difficult for people who never really studied Buddhism seriously, or for the Theravada practitioners, they may not be able to understand why the unacceptable paths are the ones to tread onto. But from the Mahayana point of view, from the emptiness aspect of it, then you should understand that you should cultivate your true wisdom as well as a skillful means, and especially the wisdom, because you have to open up yourself and then try to be more open to the new ideas. There are people, after studying the sutra for once, and they right away delve into the profound Dharma. And some, even after many years of studying, they couldn't understand and couldn't accept such profound teaching. At the beginning of this term, I shared some of my feelings, which is some Buddhist practitioners, they may have only engaged in the Dharma for a very short period of time, yet their mind and their actions and their understanding are very much in accord of the Dharma. Yet there are people who study and practice for their whole life, and some of them, they don't, not only they are not in accord with the Dharma, they went the complete wrong way from the Dharma. So that's what a pity, I would say. So this path is very difficult to tread onto. Maybe it's because people's different karma, different merit, maybe because the different paths people chose. So sometimes I really think to myself, this particular practitioner really only studied for a very short period of time, yet he's really transformed, just like an old practitioner, very mature practitioner rather. And there are people who study for 2 or 3 decades already. I notice the suffering and the pain they display on their face, and I would ask myself in my mind, why is this person suffering so much after such a long time of Dharma? So it's very different. Anyhow, I really hope that everyone's practice goes smoothly without obstacles, and you could progress along the path of the Dharma. You yourself tread on the path with such diligence. I myself am teaching with such diligence as well. So with both of our effort, we can really go somewhere. We can really progress together. Don't slack off. Don't squander your life. So we'll stop here today.